Good morning, good morning. It is a hot 80-degree day here. First one we've had all year. Pollen is out full effect. So I am feeling it, man. It is hitting me hard. But I'm here, I'm actually reporting here live in the RWH Renovations storage unit here. Not the most scenic scenic place I've done this, but it is secluded all the same. But real quick, I just wanted to go over this. I had an opportunity to kind of do a lesson for our men's purity group with the church, and for those who don't know, like, I meet up with this group weekly every Saturday, and we really focus on sexual purity. You know what I mean? Like pornography addictions, things of that nature. It's like a focus group. Just me, several guys kind of going through the same things, trying to work ourselves through it. And the guy who's been leading the group, he asked everybody, he said, kind of took a different approach, asked if anybody was willing to take on a lesson. So I volunteered, and ended up being a good discussion. I just kind of wanted to give you guys the cliff notes on how that went down. So my strategy behind it, I know addiction hasn't been something that I've really gone into in a while. It's funny because I know I had promised to set out a video eventually, like kind of focusing on like pornography addiction and that journey, how that's been. And the reason that hasn't come out yet is because I set a goal to make a video about that after I reached the 90-day mark. And why I chose 90 days, I feel like if I can go 90 days, that will be the longest I've gone since elementary school times. Like, to me, it's a goal of just reclaiming an innocence that I had lost a long time ago. And that's just kind of how deeply engraved this habit addiction has been. And quite frankly, I haven't been able to do it yet. It's been challenging. And for me, 5 weeks is good. That's kind of where I'm at with it, time-wise. So I set out, my goal was, okay, with that being said, when he offered to let somebody else take the lead the lesson, I said, well, let me take on the lesson after 6 weeks. That way, when I face the group, I've got the confidence to actually teach on the matter. You know what I mean? Because I'm talking to guys who are a lot of them are doing a lot better than I am, and it's really a place of learning for me more than anything else. But so that was my strategy, and it worked. Like, I went 6 weeks, and I'm gearing up. Today's Saturday, by the way. We're talking about these meetings we do every Saturday. So wanted to do this video while it's fresh on my mind. So I'm ready to do my lesson. I got my plan together, and for whatever reason, there was, I guess, miscommunication or whatever. Like, oh no, Randy, your lesson's gonna be next week. We got another guy who's doing one right now. So, I guess I got to go 7 weeks, right? But needless to say, that didn't happen. I haven't really talked about this in detail. I feel like when I start talking about it, I'm very vague, and there's a couple reasons behind that. One is I'm embarrassed. Like, I'm really ashamed about it. I don't feel like, especially like they're women, I don't feel like they would really understand it, or anybody who doesn't struggle with this type of thing. You know what I mean? And two, I feel like there's a real danger in curiosity. You know what I mean? There's this part of me that's saying, or there's this voice that's saying, like, if you go into detail about this stuff, like, someone's gonna walk in your footsteps just out of sheer curiosity and wanting to know the experience that you're talking about. And you know, the more I think about it, the more I realize that's really just the devil talking. You know what I mean? I think Jesus calls us to be a light, calls us to expose what is going on in the darkness, and I'm a firm believer that the truth will set you free. So I'll get into it a little bit here. I think my struggle is, you know, what ended up happening is I was supposed to do that lesson that Saturday, and we're talking last week here, and it didn't happen. And then I just, for whatever reason, just wanted to go to these sites that are like, it's like a mix of, it's what gets me is when you mix video games and pornography, and I think that's where a lot of these sites have kind of geared a little bit. It's like a little niche or whatever, but it's kind of like, and the best way I can describe it is like these games are like, it's like a reward system. Like you play through the game, you unlock another scene, and it's just kind of, it's like mixing drugs. You know what I mean? Like you get that false reward of video games mixed with that false reward of pornography, and that's kind of like why I was staying up so late, because my flow state was just so high, and my dopamine was just spiking so high to where like I'm earning this, you know what I mean? And it's just tricking my brain. It's just an illusion of something that was not real at all, and obviously not beneficial. And next morning I don't feel like I've ever been proud of myself for doing it. Like it's just, what was I doing? So needless to say, I it really just started with a peek. Like, I just like, oh, I wonder if these sites have updated anything. And I took a peek and almost just kind of looked at and this is exactly what I did. I looked at my old cache of things that I've gone to in the past, and didn't go into anything new. But I looked, and I was kind of wrestling with that thought of like, man, when I go in next week, am I going to be able to pretend like I've been 7 weeks strong? Like, I'm able to look at myself in the mirror and say that. Are we going to reset because of that? And I'm going back and forth in my mind, kind of like wrestling with that for like the whole day. And it was that moment where I should have called somebody, you know what I mean? But that's not what happened. Like, I didn't call it my pride, whatever it might have been. I ended up just giving in fully the following night. You know what I mean? Just not satisfied with that being my reset. So it was a really big exposure of my heart, and exposed the ugliness that was going on inside, and just like what my intentions really were. So, needless to say, that changed my whole outlook on the lesson and how it would go. So I went in thinking I was going to be on this great big steed, and I was going to be 6 weeks strong and be able to teach everybody. But it turned into more of an open discussion, which is good. That's why I'm like excited to share this with you guys, because there was some really rich, juicy nuggets in there, and I can't take credit for all the things that are being said here. So it starts in James 1:12, and I wanted to come correct. So the book of James is actually written by, it's a letter by Jacob, which is the half-brother of Jesus, and he basically took over the Jerusalem church after Peter left on a missionary trip. So he's kind of like second in command. He's kind of a big deal, right? So his letter is influenced heavily by the book of Proverbs and the Sermon on the Mount. So all these little scriptures in the book of James, these verses, they're kind of like little quick one-liners. You know what I mean? And one of them is in James 1, verse 12. It says, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him." And we really, I just kind of left an open discussion with that. Like, okay, well, how are you guys doing it? Like, how are you guys finding perseverance? And we got some really good insight. One of the guys was just talking about how important it is to stay on track and stick to your guns. You know what I mean? Like to have a plan, stick to it, not give up on it. That can be a real challenge, and there's a great reward in doing that. Also, to put your emotions aside. Like, no matter what you're feeling in the moment, like, it's important to just kind of recognize that your emotions are always changing. You know what I mean? Like, the way you feel one day or 1 hour, it can change very quickly, and you cannot let that dictate your actions. So no matter what you're feeling in that moment, just not losing perspective and not giving up. Another one, which I really like this one. Digging deeper roots through the tough times. And that's a direct reference to Matthew 13:20-21. I'm not going to read it, but it's the parable of the sower, where it's talking about, the seed that was sown on the stony ground that was scorched by the sun, because it didn't have the roots. Like, it just didn't have the deep roots. So, like, when those tough times come, which I've been there, I'm sure some of you have as well, just when the tough times arise, those are the times where you really got to dig in, get into that Bible, get into the fellowship, like start talking to believers and people that are just going to lift you up, man. Like, that's where we really find the most strength, is through those tough times. And like, I feel like those tough times in life have, looking back, just really refined and changed who I am as a person, like giving me the most character. And it's also important to just always realize, like, whatever you put in, you're gonna get out of it. You know what I mean? It's not gonna fall on your lap. Like, you're not gonna recover on your own. It's not gonna happen overnight by itself. And you just can't give up. You got to keep swinging. So, real quick though, I want to look in John 6:53-60. Take a really good look at this one. I'm actually going to read this one through. Jesus said to them, "Very truly I tell you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise them up at the last day. For my flesh is real food, and my blood is real drink. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood remains in me, and I in them. Just as the living Father sent me, I live because of the Father. So the one who feeds on me will live because of me. This is the bread that came down from heaven. Your ancestors ate manna and died, but whoever feeds on this bread will live forever." He said this while teaching in the synagogue of Capernaum. On hearing it, many of his disciples said, "This is a hard teaching. Who can accept it?" I want to stop right there. And if you read on, you'll see in verse 66, it's kind of a point where a lot of people turn and walk away from Jesus. And on the surface, like, even on a deeper level, like, they kind of have a point. Who can accept this teaching? This is a hard teaching. Who can accept it? Even if they didn't understand the deeper implications of what's being said here, like, it's, who can accept this gift from God? You know what I mean? Whether that is, can you not accept the gift from God because you think Jesus is vile, or is it because you think that you're vile? You know what I mean? It's kind of a good point. Like, when you hear it. And I find it very hard to face myself sometimes, and to face the reality of my sin and the ugliness of it, and the fact that, like, this is who I am. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to face on, like, an internal level sometimes, like, with the things that I'm struggling with and what it is, and when it's staring me in the face. Like, I wanted to be this great champion at this lesson, and turns out I'm still struggling. You know what I mean? But But I want to read down to Peter's response here. I'll start in 67, actually. You do not want to leave too, do you? Jesus asked the 12. Simon Peter answered him, Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. And I just think about that. And I realize right there, like, if there's anything I've got to brag about, it's the fact that God never gave up on me. You know what I mean? And if God never gave up on me, what gives me the right to give up on God and give up on myself? You know what I mean? So, I think perseverance is something we find getting up again sometimes. Like, sometimes when it comes to my addiction with pornography, I'll look at myself like, man, I'm in this. Sometimes I'm going backwards, but sometimes I'm like, man, I'm in the same spot I was last year. Now I'm somewhere where I was 2 years ago. Like, especially if I'm in a struggle with it. But I heard this quote the other day that really inspired me. Some of y'all, Atmosphere. He's a rapper I used to listen to back in high school. He said he had this quote he said on his Facebook page that really caught my eye. He said, "Don't call me lucky because I've failed more times than you've tried." And I saw that, I was like, wow, that's rich, man. Because I think no matter where you're at in life, you're going to have voices that are working against you. Like, you're going to have voices that are doubting you. They're going to tell you not to press on. And then when you do get to the other side, you're going to have voices that are telling you that you don't deserve what you have and that you didn't earn it. And, you know, nobody ever wants to remember the struggle that you've been through. You know what I mean? All they want to see is you with the crown and why you don't deserve it. You know what I mean? But we should think about Reggie Jackson sometimes. You know what I mean? He was a 14-time All-Star, 2-time World Series MVP, phenomenal hitter, phenomenal home run hitter. Reggie Jackson holds the records for the most strikeouts in the MLB to this day. To this day, he has stricken out more times. But he's also a phenomenal hitter. Like, he's Hall of Famer, man. Greatest, arguably, I mean, obviously one of the greatest. Like, he's a phenomenal player. But you know, I don't know what that crown's gonna look like that God has in store for us. You know what I mean? That God has in store for me. But I feel like it really, at the end of the day, it's just a bonus for knowing Him and for persevering with Him. You know what I mean, on a personal level. So I'm gonna leave y'all with that one. Hopefully we get a little more scenery on the next video than this. But until then, God bless. Peace.